Hari Om. I'm grateful to Swami Chidananda ji for this opportunity to be able to interact with so many of you in different parts of the world. The topic that I have chosen today is the search for happiness. And I also wish to express my gratefulness to all the great acharyas who've been a great source of inspiration for me in the preparation of this topic. Let me begin with a poem that I love very much. The poem goes this way. The time to be happy is now. The place to be happy is here. The way to be happy is to make others happy and to create a heaven right here. And this is what I think is the beginning and the end, the alpha and the omega. And my whole topic, this sort of sums up the whole topic, that the time to be happy is now. The place to be happy is here. The way to be happy is to make others happy and to create a heaven right here. One thing is common for all of us, and that all of us want to be happy. The way we want to be happy may differ, but one thing is common, we all want to be happy. There is a Sanskrit phrase which says, Sukha Prapti or Dukkha Nivritti. All our actions are diverted towards achieving happiness or doing those actions which if I don't do, I may be in trouble. For example, today is a Sunday. Many of us would like to get up late. Why? We want to be happy. But there are some who would like to get up early and finish some work because that also gives them happiness. Some would say, I'd like to eat well today so that I may be happy. Another person may choose to fast for the same reason. He or she would like to be happy. Somebody chooses to get married with the hope that he or she will be happy. Another person opts to be a monk for the same reason. For the same reason, a person may opt out of a marriage or a monk may give up his monastic life. So you will see all our actions are some way directed towards achieving happiness. One very powerful example is that of Gautama Buddha. Gautama Buddha had all the good things in the world. He had everything that somebody would dream of. And yet he was not happy. And there is this beautiful painting when he takes one last look at his wife and his son, and in the middle of the night, he runs away from his home, not knowing where he's going to, where he'll get his next meal, but he was very certain that he was looking for happiness. He went far and wide. He went to so many teachers with the hope that they would give him an answer in his search for happiness. He did all the techniques that they offered him to do, and nothing helped him. And there came a time when he starved himself. And it was almost 7 years of intense practices. And there was a moment when he was crossing the Niranjana river. And he was so frail that he almost collapsed. He held on to a twig of a branch of a tree to survive. At that moment, there was a lady seeing a man struggle. And seeing him in such a state, offered him some food. And for the first time, he did not care about protocol. He accepted food from a woman. And at the same time, he made this decision that his search for happiness was over. And for the first time, when he was not seeking anything, he sat under the Bodhi tree. And it was so strange and paradoxical when you're not looking for it, he was able to discover. Now, this is the truth. When you start seeking something, and the more intense your search is, the object that you're looking for keeps receding away from you. And sometimes when you stop the search, you're able to find it. Now, this is our mission. Now, how to be able to find happiness in the same world that we are in. A lot of teachers, a lot of spiritual teachers say the happiness that you're looking for is actually within you. But when you look at yourself, you don't find that we are the source of that happiness. The example given is that of the musk deer. The musk deer emits a certain perfume, and the deer keeps looking around and runs helter-skelter searching for the source of that perfume or the scent, not realizing that it is emitting from its own body. Now, this is the paradox of the search for happiness. So great teachers say that we are the real source of happiness, and all that we are really looking for is there within us. Happiness, therefore, has been classified into two. The happiness that is intrinsically within us, which can be called as ātma-ānanda, which is an unconditional happiness. You don't have to do anything to be happy. And it is a pure form of happiness in that it is always available for you. It is not dependent on certain other conditions, and it is the most fulfilling form of happiness. There is another form of happiness which is dependent on objects, situations, persons, relationships, and the technical term for that is called vishaya-ānanda. Vishaya-ānanda is the happiness that comes when you do something, when you accomplish something. Now, the problem is, to accomplish, there is a struggle. To maintain your accomplishment, there's a struggle, and whether you like it or not, there is a period of time when it goes away from you. Any fulfillment in this objective world cannot be absolutely fulfilling. There is no tripti, and whether you like it or not, it creates bondage. So the real search will be to be able to discover happiness within oneself. But once you're able to discover happiness within yourself, you are always the vishaya-ānanda, the happiness that comes from objects, persons, situations, relationship is also available for you. Now, those who have studied this whole science of happiness and who have told us that the happiness is within us have also made a diagnosis of why, even though we may be the source of happiness, there are certain blocks. And the block is the human mind. There is a nice phrase which comes in one of the Upanishads called Amrita Bindu Upanishad, which says, Mana eva manushyanam karana bandha mokshade, which means the mind is the cause of bondage. The untrained mind is the cause of bondage. The trained mind can be the cause of freedom. Now, how is it possible to train your mind without having to leave your home, without having to leave whatever you're doing? And the technique they have given is, if you're able to do your daily work, transform your work into worship, and to be able to accept whatever remuneration or whatever you get for your work as prasāda. Now, your regular work, karma, now becomes a karma yoga. It is this single sadhana or single spiritual exercise where your daily work can become a worship. Over a period of time, your expectation comes down. You know that your happiness is not dependent on the final outcome of your work, but you are here to give your very best, your 100% in whatever you do. You do it as an act of worship. Over a period of time, your mind is able to take off anger, jealousy, hatred, greed. All these things slowly come down. And this is one of the proven methods to be able to overcome, or a form of a mind training. There is another form of a mind training. This is based on the mind, which is basically restless. All our sense organs are focused outside, and the whole world is so attractive. We're not able to look within or silence our mind to be able to discover happiness within. There are many techniques, and all, especially Buddhist masters, give various forms of meditations as part of mindfulness to bring about more awareness. One simple technique, which certainly can work, but if you're able to invest your time on it, is called mantra japa. And there are various forms of mantras, and it is all just chanting of these mantras which can be very, very powerful. One very famous Buddhist mantra, and Gautama Buddha himself has praised that mantra tremendously. He says this is a very powerful mantra. There is a Buddhist sutra called the Hridayam Sutra, and where Buddha is speaking to Sariputra, and Buddha gives him this mantra and says, among the mantras, this is the best of all the mantras. And it says, it goes this way, Tade Yata, and the mantra goes like this, Gate, Gate, Para Gate, Parasam Gate, Bodhisvaha. And if you go to many of the Southeast Asian countries, Buddhist countries, you'll see a lot of people all the time, they're chanting, Gate, Gate, Para Gate, Parasam Gate, Bodhisvaha. Now, this is a form of a mind training which will help you to silence the mind. Another form of a Buddhist mantra which I like, and which is more popular in the Tibetan Buddhists, is another nice mantra called Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. And there are a lot of musical rendering where you can use it as a musical chant. Now, if you go to various other teachers, now depending on your background. Now, for the Jain, there is a nice mantra called Om Namo Arihantanam. Om Namo Siddhana. Now that is again a very, very powerful mantra. Now, a teacher will say, who is your favorite form of God? Who is Rama, Krishna? If it is Krishna, the mantra will be Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. If it is Rama, then it will be Shri Ram, Jai Ram. Now, for those of us who are extremely time conscious, it looks like we are wasting time. But every teacher says, Krishna, the Bhagavad Gita calls this japa sadhana as the most important sadhanas, and you really have to put it into practice where you can spend an extended period of time every day when you are uttering these mantras. So just sitting at home with available time through karma yoga and through upasana yoga, it is possible to bring a certain state of mind when you are in a state of samatvam. Krishna describes this in the 2nd chapter when Arjuna asks him, what are the qualities of a person who has spiritual knowledge? Now, such a person does not get so easily excited, does not get too depressed. So through mind training over a period of time, in fact, more than any spiritual knowledge, the eligibility for spiritual knowledge is more important. And that's what I would say is the 2 important techniques that we need to work on. In the Bible, in the Old Testament, there is one book called Exodus. And in Exodus, there is a particular chapter, chapter 13, verse 14, where Moses encounters God. Moses, as he is walking, suddenly he finds a place looking extremely green. And as he walks, he hears a voice which says, you are on holy land, take off your footwear. And he sees a bush which is lush green on fire. And the bush seems to be unaffected. Now, he finds a place very strange and he hears a voice. And the voice says, this is the voice of God. And he has an instruction from God where he gets all the commandments and certain instructions where he has to tell his people. But Moses is a Jew and is a businessman. He before he leaves, he asks the voice, he asks God, now, what is your name? Can you tell me your name? Who are you? If my people ask you, I want your name. And this is exactly given in that particular verse. That is verse 14 of Exodus chapter 3. Which is, go tell your people, I am that I am. I am that I am. You can go to YouTube and check Vedānta. Vedānta has given an excellent meditation on this particular. So these are all methods of being able to train. But I have chosen this to be able to understand what is this I am that I am. There was a great spiritual teacher from Bombay called Nisargadatta Maharaj. Nisargadatta Maharaj, his book, which has been compiled by others, is titled I Am That. I am that. So you will see different traditions will talk about the same thing. What do you mean by I am that? Now, there are 2 words, I. When you say I, you mean I, this conscious individual. And am means existence. I am. That means I am conscious, I am existence. Now, whenever I and am are together, you experience peace, happiness. And one example when I and am are together is when we are fast asleep. When you are fast asleep, consciousness and existence are together. There is no distinction at all. The moment you wake up, there is a problem. I am here, consciousness is here, and existence is apart from me. And the moment you see consciousness and existence as 2 separate, then there is a world of duality. There is a world of desire, fear, anxiety. I'll give an example from the world of objects. Now, if a person likes a particular sweet and he sees a sweet on a plate, that sweet can be taken as an existent sweet. Something is there. And the person who loves the sweet as a person who's conscious. As long as the sweet is separate from you, there is a desire, there is a need for. The moment you take that sweet and put in your mouth, what do? You close your eyes. For a moment, consciousness and existence have come together and you experience Ananda or bliss. Now, existence is called Sat and consciousness is called Chit. And when consciousness and existence come together, that is the experience of Ananda. Now, I once asked a great spiritual master, what is your message for me? And he said, be happy. Just be happy. Now, it looks so simple. If you are able to silence your mind, if you're able to experience this moment, you will see this moment is just as it is. Somebody once asked the great spiritual teacher, Ramana Maharshi, how to treat others, how to make others happy. And the great master replied, there are no others. See, that is his understanding. What do you mean by there are no others? Now, I'll give you one example. Sometimes it happens to all of us. Your own tongue can be bitten by your own teeth. There is a pseudo-duality when somebody is hurting you, somebody is being hurt, and somebody is hurting. Now, will you get so angry with your teeth for having bitten your tongue and say, I'll take you to a dentist and give a good drilling for your teeth? You won't do that. Why? Because the teeth is you and the tongue is you. Even though there is a difference, we do not differentiate. Now, let's extend between a parent and a child. Now, supposing a child turns out against the parent and makes a criticism, and for a moment, the parent is very hurt. But then a father or a mother identifies as a child as oneself. And then would you complain to anybody? You can't complain to anybody. Just like when you bite your own tongue, what do? You swallow that pain. Why? Now you have identified your own child as none other than you. Now, if you're able to extend to this, that is why Jesus had said once, whatsoever you do to the least of my brothers, that you do unto me. Whatsoever you do to the least of my sisters, that you do unto me. If you really understand, if you really look, there are differences, but there are no differentiation. And that's what the great Master Ramana said, how to treat others, how to make others happy. This is almost impossible. You have to make yourself happy. And if you're able to make yourself happy, you're able to make the whole world happy. So I will conclude this presentation by saying this: the time to be happy is now. The place to be happy is here. The way to be happy is to make yourself happy and to be able to create a heaven right here. I will stop now. I will continue if there are any discussions. The time is open for discussion. Vibaji.
Up till now, no questions.
Questions. I will just recite a few words of a great poem on the same context by Michael Adams. And Michael Adams has written a nice poem. I'm not going to go through the entire poem, but in this poem, he brings out a nice fact that it is trying after happiness that prevents you from being happy. And the poem goes this way: perhaps trying even makes for unhappiness. Perhaps all the din of my desiring has kept the strange bird from my shoulder. I've tried so long and so loud after happiness. I've looked so far and wide. I have always imagined that happiness was an island in the river. Perhaps it is the river. I have thought that happiness to be the name of an inn at the end of the road. Perhaps it is the road. I have believed that happiness was always tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. Perhaps it is here. Perhaps it is now. I have looked everywhere else. So here and now, but here and now is clearly unhappiness. Perhaps there is no such thing as happiness. Perhaps happiness exists not. It is just a dream created by an unhappy mind. Certainly it cannot be as I unhappily imagine it. Here and now is not unhappiness. So happiness is not. I need not therefore waste myself on what is not. I can continue. So this is what he's trying in that poem to say, that trying too much after happiness can be the cause of preventing happiness. The more you experience this moment, to be essentially yourself here and now. There were two brothers talking to each other, and one brother tells another brother, Anna, why should I say ABC? Why not ECB? So the older brother says, simple, first you must be, then you can see.
Yeah, there is one question.
Yeah.
Mr. Ranjan Desai. I'll
Yeah.
just unmute. Yes. Ranjanji, you can ask it.
Namaskar, how are you, Dr. Hegde? It was nice hearing you again. You have really good, like to a lot of people who do listen to you and you're very popular in our webinars. I just wanted to add one comment here where you said about the Moses and where he asks God the name of the God and he says, I am that. But there is very similar things in the Upanishads too, that very famous quotes that Tattvamasi, and Aham Brahmasmi. So do you mean to say that these are the same God that Moses encounters?
Absolutely. There can be no two.
Okay, there you go. So I just wanted to...
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
absolutely the same.
Yeah, like I was just trying to add the comment on that actually. So
yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Although I didn't bring the word Tattvamasi, thank you very much for bringing it. Tattvamasi essentially means I am that. And this quote from the Exodus is exactly the same thing. And I would really like you to look into the YouTube where Wayne Dyer has spent so much of explanation of I am that I am. You know, when you say I am that I am, you have this mantra Om Purnam Adaha, that, you know, the remote. So when you are referring to I am that I am, you're talking of Purnam Adaha. Purnam Idam, I am this. And when you're talking about Purna, I'm reminded of, you know, when you search for happiness, you keep running around. And when you attain happiness, you don't have to move anywhere. You are at home. Now, when you're frying a puri, you will see in the early stages, you will see it run around the pan. But once the puri becomes Purna, it stops there.
That's right. All right, Tanya, it was nice hearing you again. I hope you come back again a couple of times.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Can you just open do I read or you will open that question pen? There's one question there.
I'll try, yes.
A small arrow.
Yeah. Good evening, sir. I'll read the question by Dr. Sri Ranjani. It says, good evening, sir. It is always blissful to listen to you. The way you bridge all religions. Why would God balance happiness and sadness always? Now we have to take responsibility to ourselves. You know, stop blaming God and take responsibility. You know, the more we take responsibility for ourselves, then we stop blaming. I am completely responsible for all the happiness or all the unhappiness in my life. Now, that ability to take responsibility is a certain spiritual maturity. Now, my today is the product of my yesterday. And according to one tradition, it says this is what is called our prarabdha. Now, when we are born, we are given a certain bank account which has the good and the bad. And there may be two brothers, two sisters who are born in the same family, but so different. One seems to be so blessed, and the other one has got so much of suffering. Why is that so? Now, these are questions, honestly, we cannot answer. And the whole preparation, therefore, is to be able to accept whatever. And that is why one of the most beautiful prayers is the Islamic prayer of Inshallah, or the Christian prayer of Thy will be done. To be able to say very cheerfully yes to whatever we have, and not very passively. There is an Alcoholic Anonymous prayer which says, give me the courage to change the things I can, accept that which I cannot, and the wisdom to know the difference. Thank you, Sri Ranjani, for your question.
There's another, not question, but just Humble Submission by Dr. Linen D'Souza.
I'll just read that. I'm not able to see it. Good evening,
Okay,
sir.
I'll read for you.
Please.
I am practicing Karma Yoga as you had advised in an earlier talk, Doctor, and also treating whatever remuneration they give me as my prasāda. But sometimes I get distracted from my Karma Yoga. How do I focus on my mission, Doctor? And please repeat the Buddhist mantra.
All right. It's easy for me to repeat the Buddhist mantra or to answer rather than answer that question. When you are in a spiritual practice, you will have frustrations, you will have failures, but that is part of life. Each frustration, each failure will help you to work on yourself. There is no other way but continue trying. As far as the Buddhist mantras are concerned, the one mantra from the Hridayam Sutra. The Hridayam Sutra is very strangely in Sanskrit. It is one of the, almost all the Buddhist texts are in Pali, but this one is in Sanskrit. And it's part of the Madhyamika Buddhism. Buddha speaking to Sariputra, and the last mantra. And I had the good fortune of listening to this mantra from His Holiness the Dalai Lama himself. And he was unfolding this mantra. And he says it goes like this, Tadayata. This is a Sanskrit word. It says, in fact, there are a few Sanskrit verses before that where Buddha praises this mantra. He says, among the mantras, this is the greatest of mantra. And the mantra goes this way. Gate, gate, paragate, parasam gate, bodhi swaha. Deva Primal has put this into an extremely beautiful tune. You can find it in YouTube also. The same mantra by Deva Primal. Gate means gone, 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 gone beyond, gone altogether beyond. Oh, what an ecstasy, swaha. It can be compared to Hallelujah. Buddha has seen Sariputra going from one level to another level to another level. And now Sariputra is on the verge of enlightenment. And the teacher is celebrating this transition. And he has given this mantra. The second and a very powerful Buddhist mantra is Om Mani Padme Hum. Here, Om and Hum both mean silence. Mani means the jewel. The jewel means that which is permanent within you, the ātma or the consciousness. Padme means the lotus, the temporary, the ephemeral, which will bloom and wither away. So, Om Mani. So, within us, there is something that is there all the time, and that is the Mani, the jewel, and there is something that will bloom and wither away, the Padma, the lotus. More than the actual meaning, mantras have a certain vibratory quality, and just the chanting of the mantra brings about the treatment for the monkey mind, the mind that keeps wandering. The mind is then slowly and slowly focused into this moment. Lenan? Any more questions?
I think no more questions.
No more questions?
I think, yeah, up till now, no one has raised hand nor the text questions.
So we'll conclude with this quest of happiness. You know, Swami Anubhavananda's message, just be happy. And don't try to make anybody else happy. Because, as I said, you are the world. If you are okay, the whole world is okay.
Yeah, there is a question from Dr. Sonali Ray.
Yeah.
How would you define happiness? What are some practical tips to be being happy in spite of daily grind?
Now, see the word happiness that we normally see. Normally, the English word happiness would correlate more with the Sanskrit word of vishaya-ānanda, the happiness that comes from objects, situations, persons, and relationship. There is another form of happiness which is not related to any of these. The actual word, the Sanskrit word for happiness is Ananda. Ananda does not have an opposite. Like happiness has got the opposite of sorrow. So normally when we correlate with happiness, we visualize happiness as the opposite of sorrow. The real spiritual quest is Ananda. Ananda does not mean happiness. Ananda means Ananta. Ananta means that which has no limits. Can you imagine a situation where there is no limits? Limits can happen in three things: limitation in time, limitation in space, limitations in objects. Wherever there is limitations of any sort, if I have only this much time and no more, if my lifespan is limited to this, then toward the end of my lifespan, I have a sorrow that my lifespan or my term is getting over. If I have limitations in space, I can have only this much space and no more, and that brings in sorrow. If I can have only this object and no more. So Ananta means no limitations in time, no limitations in space, no limitations in object. And the one example of Ananta is in deep sleep. In deep sleep, we experience no limitations, and that is why we experience Ananta or Ananda. Now, the real trick is, how do I translate the limitlessness experience that I have during deep sleep into the state of wakefulness? And that comes from this understanding that when you wake up, there is a pseudo separation between you and the world. The world is, now when I see the world seems to be outside of me. But is the world really outside me? When I'm seeing you, it looks like you are there, but the experience of seeing you is actually there in my mind. I have to go back to a discussion between Yajnavalika and his wife Maitreyi. Yajnavalika was one of the sages of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. A lot of the verses in the Upanishad come from him. One of the most brilliant of scholars, no match for him at his age and time. And because of his scholarship, he was extremely rich. He had two wives. One is Maitreyi, and I don't remember the name of the second wife. Katyayani. Yeah, thank you, Vipaji. Katyayani was his second wife. And when he had a realization that all these material things is not going to give me fulfillment, he decided to renounce everything and go to the forest. And he divided his property, his wealth, between his two wives. And Maitreyi comes and asks him, "See, you have given me so much money. Is this going to give me happiness? Or what you're going to experience in the forest, is that going to give me happiness?" So he smiled and said, "Certainly what I'm going for will give me more happiness." Then she said, "Can I come with you as a student?" He says, "Okay." And she follows him as a student. Now, being a wife and also a student, she had the ability to ask him a lot of difficult questions. And one day when she was asking too many questions, he said, "Now stop all your questions. Now answer my questions." And he says, "Where are you?" He says, "I'm in your ashram." "Where is this ashram?" "It is in Karnataka." "Where is Karnataka?" "It is in India." "Where is India?" "It is in this, in the earth." "Where is this earth?" "In the solar system." "Where is this solar system?" "In space." "Where is the space?" "It is in my mind." "And where is my mind?" "It is in my consciousness." Now, if you really see, whatever you think is tormenting you, all the problems that you're getting from the outer world is really not outside, it is there within you. And therefore, the whole exercise now is to work within and see that I am fulfilled just the way I am. And that is the whole work. See, the world is going to be the way it is. And if I set a rule that I will be happy if this happens, then happiness is going to be away from me. The more I say happiness is going to be unconditional, I accept happiness just the way it is, because the world is going to be that way somewhat.
Yeah, there is one from Mr. Srinath Kulambi. Yes, Srinath.
Namaste, Namaste Hegdeji. Namaste. I have one very simple question. I think this happiness we are experiencing is that because of the brain that we have, and how about animals and birds? Do they have similar kind of brain, and are they experiencing the same kind of or in their own type of happiness? Because you are a neurosurgeon, so I just want to know how we experience this happiness. Is that because of some kind of action or some kind of chemical? I don't know about how the the anatomy of the brain. So you may just explain in that perspective. Thanks.
See, the whole happiness should be classified in two. The happiness that comes from objects, situations, relationships, persons, and so on. Now, whenever happiness comes from an object, there is an interaction between two things. My eyes, my sense organs meets the sense objects, and that is exactly where it is reported to the brain. And once it is reported to the brain creates happiness or sadness. And if it is happiness, it would like it to repeat. If it is sadness, it would like to avoid. Now, as far as vishaya-ānanda, as far as the objects in the world is concerned, it is a purely a sense organ, sense object interaction which is reported to the brain, and the brain creates a certain memory. And if you like a particular sweet, you'll go back to the sweet shop. If you like a particular dish in a hotel, you'll go back to that. If you particularly like a hotel or a scenery or somewhere, you go back to it again and again. Why? Because your mind, your brain has created a certain memory of this I like, this I don't like. What I don't like, I avoid. What I like, I will go again and again. So this is as far as happiness that comes from objects. There is another kind of happiness which is the happiness of Ananta, or the happiness of limitlessness. Two examples I told you. One, during sleep. During sleep, your mind is temporarily switched off. It is like if your computer has gone off to sleep. And the computer has gone off to sleep, your eyes don't see, your ears don't hear. There is no interaction with the outside world at all. And yet, you are happy. Can you see? So this is one experience of happiness without any interaction with sense objects. Now, the spiritual teachers are trying to replicate that through understanding, through spiritual knowledge, that this whole world that you see is not different from you. This whole world is actually, as the Isha Vasya Upanishad says, Isha Vasyam idam sarvam yat kinchit jagatyam jagat. Other than the Lord, there is nothing. Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, 7th verse, one of the most wonderful verses ever to meditate on. He says, Mattaha paratharam nanyat kinchidanti dhananjaya, my sarvam idam proktam sutre manigana eva. Now, if you are able to experience godliness in and through everything that you experience, I'll go to one more example that comes to my mind. Kenopanishad, 2nd chapter, mantra number 4. It says, Pratibodha viditam mata. If you're able to understand that mantra, the Upanishad promises you immortality. Now, in every experience, if I can put my palm here in front of the camera. Now, this is what the spiritual teacher says. You're seeing my hand? In addition to my hand, are you seeing anything else? You're seeing my hand. In addition to my hand, the lines and the fingers, do you see anything else?
No, if you bring that very close to the camera, there is nothing other than your hand.
All right. Now, so see, in addition to my hand, the spiritual teachers will make you aware that you are able to see my hand because there is light on my hand, isn't it?
Yes.
If there were no light on my hand, you will never see my hand. So there are two. One, something that you have taken for granted is the light on my hand, isn't it? So the light does not belong to my hand. It is an independent entity. Although it is an independent entity, the teacher now makes you aware, I'm seeing the hand plus light. Slowly the teacher will now take you from the object, the hand plus light, to you, the subject. The teacher will say, you're seeing that hand. As you're seeing that hand, as you move closer to yourself, are you aware that because your eyes are functioning, you're able to see the hand? So the teacher has taken you from the object to the subject. Now you are alert and awake, and therefore your mind is functioning. And you can see your mind, and your mind is awake because of consciousness. Now this is what the mantra says. Pratibodha viditam matam. In every experience, if you are able to perceive the experiencer is the divine principle in all of us. Now imagine if you walk out and whatever you see and experience is none other than Bhagwan, because Bhagwan is there as the experiencer, the consciousness, the ātma. And that is exactly what Krishna says, Mattaha parakaram nanyata. I've gone too far and wide to answer your question. So your question has been answered in two ways. One is vishaya-ānanda from the sense objects. It is absolutely scientific from a mind experience. The other is called ātma-ānanda, which has nothing to do with our sense organs. It is through understanding and experiencing godliness in and through all experiences.
Okay, that second question, part of the question, does animals also have this kind of, any kind of experience regarding happiness?
Certainly. See, it depends upon their maturity. Every animal is also trained. You know, there are so many experiments that we do on mice where you put electrodes into certain areas of the brain, and when the mice press that, it gets a pleasurable sensation. And once it experiences that, it keeps on repeating till it is exhausted. The animal goes to death because, you know, the animal is able to replicate. So whatever I said, the interaction between sense organs, sense objects to going up to the mind is experienced in animals also. Supposing you give a particular, you know, this is the Pavlovian example, where many years ago, a Russian physiologist won the Nobel Prize by giving, giving food to a dog and making an association with that feeding with the ringing of the bell. And then each time he would give the food, the bell would also ring. And then once you finally take off the food, but only ring the bell, no food, but the dog would still salivate. So the salivation happens because the dog has now made an association with the ringing of the bell and the food.
Okay, that's a nice example. Now I got it, yeah. Thank you. You always bring up good talk and good topics, and it's really very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, one more text question by A.R. Ghanti. What does Purna mean?
Purna.
Yeah.
Purna. Purna or Sampurna. Okay.
Spurna. S-P-U-R-A-N-A. Spurna. He has not put H. I understand that.
That you have to answer. Spurna. Spurati means effulgent. What emerges out. That's what I would think, Vibhaji. You might be able to answer that better than me.
Yeah, that's true.
Spurti, I think, you know, Spuranam. I would be more happy to answer about Purna. Purna is such a beautiful word. In fact, there is this mantra, Purnamada.
Yeah, he says, got it. There's one more text question by Vijayalakshmi Bangera. When you say that happiness can be found within you, does it mean that it can be sought without the help of a teacher?
Difficult. See, although it is within us, it's like it's like, you know, it's like learning how to drive or learning how to swim or learning how to do a neurosurgical operation without a guide. You know, more difficult than that. You might probably learn how to drive or to cook or to do a surgical operation without a guide. But I can say with certainty without the help of a qualified teacher. The teacher must be one who has accomplished himself. The teacher has gone through the path. The teacher has discovered Purnatvam. And the teacher should have the ability to be able to convey to a student. You need that quality of a teacher. And such a quality of a teacher is called a Shotriya Brahmanishta. So it is only with the help of such a teacher. It is possible to be on your own and to find. But that is very rare. You have to be a spiritual genius for that.
Yes. Now there are no more questions, I think.
Shall we conclude?
Yes. Thank you so much, Hegdeji. Hari Om. It was very nice and interesting. Even the question answer was very interesting.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You are welcome again. We'll see you soon. Hari Om.
Hari Om.